Hey, welcome to Crime Time 911. She was young, ambitious, surrounded by friends, but trapped in a relationship that spiraled out of control. Her friends say they saw the warning signs, the jealousy, the threats, the fear, but didn't realize how fast it could turn. This is the story of Maple Batalia, of love, loss, and learning to recognize the red flags. Maple's parents got married in 1992 in Bombay. They had 3 children, all born in India, with Maple being the youngest. She was named after maple trees that her father had seen changing colors in the fall when he was on a trip to the United States in the 80s. When Maple was 5 months old, this is when the family had relocated to Canada. Maple's uncle encouraged the family to immigrate there to have a better life. The family would settle in Surrey, BC. Rosie Batalia is Maple's older sister. She had been interested in modeling as a child, and one time she took Maple along with her to a shoot. Maple was only 14 years old at the time. When one of the models did not show up, Maple was asked to fill in. She looked beautiful in a Bollywood-style outfit. This was Maple's first taste of being in a type of show business. After this, she continued to pursue modeling as well as acting. She wasn't just good at modeling and acting, though. She was also good at painting, drawing, and even singing. In 2008, a model search was being conducted. When the agency saw Maple's photos that she had submitted, they knew that she was the perfect fit. This was the first step in her modeling career. She would also model in Vancouver's Fashion Week. Maple's parents were very different from most traditional Indian parents. They supported their children and encouraged them to follow their dreams. And this is exactly what Maple did. She was also a part of video projects that Maple and her friends would film. In one of the videos, she played an Indian mother. She wore her own mother's clothing and used her mother as inspiration for her character. She played the role perfectly. Eventually, Rosie would discover that Maple had a boyfriend. She knew she had to find out more about this guy. Maple was only 14 years old when she met Gurjinder Dhaliwal, also known as Gary. Gary started participating in the video projects as well. He was described as a shy and reserved guy, bringing Maple flowers and other gifts. He even bought her a Pomeranian when they were in grade 12. Everyone in Maple's life supported her relationship with Gary. Their moms would even become fast friends. By 2010, Maple had been doing commercials. There was also a big production shooting in Vancouver, and she really wanted to be in it. So her agent got her an audition. She landed her first role in Disney's Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. This role was the biggest step in her career to this point. She was so excited about it. She constantly talked about it to anyone and everyone. When Diary of a Wimpy Kid was released, there was a screening of the film in a local park. All of Maple's friends and family were at the screening, except for one, Gary. Maple had no idea that landing her first role in a major film would change the course of her relationship with Gary. Gary seemed jealous because the role that Maple played in the movie was a girl that the big brother in the film had a crush on. So there were scenes where this actor was trying to flirt with Maple on screen, which created jealousy for Gary off screen. He started to downplay her role in the film, telling her it was just a small scene. This is when it was realized that Gary did not want Maple to do acting or modeling. One of Maple's friends had asked her to be the girlfriend in a video project she was doing for school. When asked if she would be part of the project, Maple immediately said yes. Then suddenly would change her mind and tell her friend she couldn't be a part of her project. She wouldn't give any details or explanation as to why she wouldn't participate. In the meantime, she landed a role in a teen TV show called Secret Circle. It was a small role in the show. However, it was a kissing scene. Because of the open relationship that Maple had with her parents, she talked to them about it to see what they thought. Her father would joke that she could gargle after kissing the boy. Friends and family started to notice that Maple would spend a lot of time on the phone with Gary, having very heated conversations. In the Indian culture, women are often treated like property. They are either their father's daughter or someone's wife. It is extremely difficult for a lot of Indian women to gain their own independence and freedom because of these cultural beliefs. If a woman becomes more confident and independent, it is seen as bad because they would then be harder to control. Thankfully for Maple, her parents did not follow these typical traditions, but this doesn't seem to be the case when it comes to Gary. Eventually, Maple started to distance herself from her own family. She wouldn't go out or do things with her sister or even her niece. After Maple had graduated high school, she would go on a trip to Cuba with Gary. When they returned home, Maple had been making a big effort to cover her face and wore sunglasses more than usual. It was later discovered that Maple had a black eye. She would brush it off, saying her eye was swollen because of allergies. In the fall of 2011, Maple attended the Simon Fraser University, or SFU, where she would study health sciences, but deep down she longed to become an actress. Maple was still booking weekly with her agency for different jobs. Finally, Maple had had enough and broke it off with Gary. She wanted to become something big, and he was not going anywhere in life, and she felt like he was holding her back. Gary did not take this news well at all. He became extremely angry. September 24th, 2011, Maple had gone to Tim Hortons with a male friend of hers. Gary had been following her, and he would follow them into the restaurant. When Gary entered, he saw Maple sitting at a table with another guy. He would confront Maple in the restaurant and punch the friend in the face. He then grabbed Maple and physically dragged her to his car. They drove off. Eventually, Gary would drop Maple back off at the Tim Hortons he dragged her out of. Maple would tell her sister Rosie that she just went with him to avoid any further drama. The next day, Rosie asked Maple where her phone was, and Maple told her that she had lost it. Rosie confronted Maple on this excuse, telling her that she has never lost anything in her life, and asked her what was really going on. Maple then revealed that when she was in the car with Gary the night before, he took her phone from her, and when she went to grab it back, he pushed her. The other patrons in Tim Hortons had called the police when they witnessed what Gary had done. Maple wouldn't press charges because she didn't want to cause any stress on the family. However, the police would place a no-contact order on Gary so that he would not be allowed to go anywhere near Maple's home, work, school, etc. I have absolutely no idea what would be running through someone's mind that they would have the nerve to go into a public place, punch someone in the face, and drag another person outside and into a vehicle. This just shows that he was clearly not mentally stable. I'm not surprised that Maple refused to press charges. A lot of victims do this, but I am glad that the police took the initiative to place a no-contact order on Gary instead of just fluffing it off like in so many other cases I have covered. Maple and her family felt like the police had handled the situation and that they had nothing more to worry about. On the morning of September 28, 2011, Maple's friend had woken up with the worst feeling in her stomach, like something really bad had happened. She immediately called Maple. However, it was Maple's mom who had answered the phone. All the friend could hear was screaming and crying. She frantically started asking, "Where's Maple? Can I talk to her?" All Maple's mom would say was that she wasn't there. Earlier that same morning at around 1 a.m., the RCMP began to receive phone calls claiming that there had been a certain type of object fired at SFU. When the first officer arrived on the scene, he sees a woman laying on the ground between two vehicles. She was making some noises and there was evidence all around her. The woman on the ground was Maple. The officer that found her did everything in his power to keep Maple alive. She was then sent to Royal Columbian Hospital. Maple's family went straight to the hospital as fast as they could. When they got there, the doctor had advised that Maple had not made it. Meanwhile, police were examining the scene to try to figure out what had happened and why this type of crime had occurred at the university. An autopsy later revealed that Maple had 3 wounds from a tool that officers carry, as well as lacerations to the top of her head from a sharp object you would find in the kitchen. Ultimately, it was found that she had been wounded 11 times with the sharp object. Maple's family knew exactly who had committed this horrific act, and they told the police this. The police would then attempt to speak with Gary, but he avoided their calls and refused to speak with them. I'm sure we all know that Gary was the one responsible for unaliving Maple by now. It's not surprising that he avoided the police. I'm sure he was trying to either get his alibi straight or come up with some BS story about what had happened to take the blame off of himself. Police obtained video surveillance from the university to try to piece together what had happened. On the video, Maple is seen sitting at a table talking and laughing with friends. At 11:30, Maple is seen on camera getting out of an elevator by herself. At around 1 a.m., Maple is seen with the same friend that Gary had punched at the Tim Hortons just days before, as well as a couple of his friends. They are seen walking down a hallway and head down a flight of stairs, laughing and joking with each other. They walked out the front doors. Unfortunately, the actual crime was not captured on the camera, as the camera that could have captured the incident had panned away from the area just before it had happened. They did, however, capture a white Charger fleeing the scene on other cameras that pointed towards the road. While watching the video footage, the officers were able to determine that this Charger was a 2011 because of the racing stripe that was across the taillights. When they turned their investigation towards this type of vehicle, it was found that most of these types of Chargers were rental vehicles, and that one white Charger had been returned to a rental place in Surrey not long after the crime had taken place. When police found out who had rented that vehicle, they were stunned. It was not Gary. The police had seized the vehicle immediately from the rental place and found evidence that indicated that the driver of the vehicle had been involved in the crime against Maple. Now police had to determine who the driver was. The person who had rented the vehicle was Gersimer Betty, who is a classmate of Maple's, but also friends with Gary. What's Gersimer's involvement in the crime? Was he hired? Did he just rent the vehicle under his name for Gary? When police view the video footage at the rental place, they can see that Gersimer is at the counter renting the vehicle, but sitting on a chair just behind him is none other than Gary. While police were investigating the last steps of Maple from the video they seized from SFU, they now can see that Gersimer is seen entering the school and started to follow Maple's friend around in an effort to locate her. The whole time he is walking around the school, he is on the phone with someone. Meanwhile, the Charger is outside circling the area. Who was driving around if Gersimer was inside? So police request the details of both Gersimer and Gary's phones. When the police get the results back, they can see that both phones were at the school that fateful night and that they were communicating with each other. From there, police determined that Gary had been stalking Maple. Almost anywhere she was, he was not far behind. It took the police 12 months to investigate and gather enough evidence to lay charges on Gary and Gersimer. A year after the unaliving of Maple, Gary was charged with first degree and Gersimer is charged with manslaughter using a tool that cops use and accessory after the fact. Now, the challenge was to get a confession because they only had circumstantial evidence, as the only DNA found at the scene belonged to Maple. In the interrogation room, police try to lay out pictures of Maple from the crime scene on the table, and Gary swipes them away like he doesn't want to look at them. Gary lays his head on the table and covers his ears like a child to try to stop himself from hearing the officers speaking to him. When the picture is placed on the table in front of Gary again, he rips it in half and throws the pieces on the floor. Maple's sister Rosie was allowed to go into the room and speak with Gary in hopes that she could get through to him, since she had known him since he was only 15 years old. When this tactic didn't work, they thought that Maple's mom might be able to help by telling him that she forgives him. So they allow Gary to call her. Gary tells her that he is very sorry and eventually confesses. Gary is convicted of second degree and gets a life sentence with no chance of parole for 21 years. Gersimer was convicted of accessory after the unaliving and sentenced to 18 months. It is so sad that this beautiful girl who had such huge goals in life was taken away for selfish reasons. She likely would have had an amazing career in acting if she had been able to continue on the path that she was on. Share your thoughts on this case in the comments below. Don't forget to follow, like, and share this episode. It helps more people to discover these stories and keeps the conversation going. Thanks for listening to Crime Time 911. Stay safe, stay curious, and remember to always trust your gut.